YouTube land. There's better lighting. Anyway, today I was kind of watching the trials on Benghazi stuff, or the questioning and what have you. But anyway, I was wanting to talk some about the Hollow Earth Darrow topic, because I had been thinking about this, and there's a couple things that I've found out and learned, because I've been searching so much for the what the heck the Darrow thing is. So anyway, thought I would just let you all kind of hang out with me. I'm gonna go outside and smoke, and we can talk about this. But I've been looking at what the Darrow are, because it interests me, because I had an encounter with one. You know, some people say, "Oh, that was sleep paralysis or a lucid dream." It was not. I was awake. I smoked a cigarette, finished the cigarette, and put the cigarette out in the ashtray. And when I was done with this encounter, after the thing grabbed my arm, twisted it behind my back, and stuck the device to the side of my head, and then that doorway opened up, and I was all freaking out, paranoid, you know, like, oh no, or, you know, thought, I didn't know what they were going to do. I didn't know if they were going to take me, kill me, or what, you know. It was scary, very scary. But then the roar happened, and it scared them. That roar was like a T-Rex times 100,000. I mean, it was so scary. I wasn't even worried about the Darrow that had hold of my arm no more. It was so scary, man. It was bad. And a lot of these Dogman and Bigfoot videos I do, they talk about the roar that the Bigfoot makes, and you know, I think they have extra vocal cords, because I think that they're Nephilim. I believe that the Bigfoot and Dogman are hybrid creatures of some type, and they have these genetic makeup of angels like Lucifer was, that had the wonderfully made pipes. It's talking about his vocal cords. You know, they could make sounds that are beyond. You know, in the Garden of Eden, whenever God said He wanted to place a cherub and a flaming sword at the entrance of the Garden of Eden, to where it would guard the way to the tree of life, so that people couldn't get to it anymore. It says God placed a cherub and a flaming sword, not a cherub with a flaming sword, but that word flaming sword was enchantment. So there was some type of verbal way, some type of sound. An enchantment would have something to do with some kind of verbalized something. So and also in that definition, when I was looking those words up, it even meant could cut stone for some reason. I don't know. I'd have to go back and relook, but anyway, it was an enchantment. There was some type of verbalized something that was done to seal up the way to the tree of life. So anyway, these hybrid type creatures and things like that is one of the directions I was moving towards, figuring out what the Darrow are. But I also was wondering about Cain, because after Cain murdered Abel, and God came to him and basically was going to ostracize him, it said he was ostracized or banished off the face of the earth, and he would wander in the earth like a vagabond. You know, all the old translations of the Bible, and then one other translation of the Bible, I think, is the Hebrew version of the scriptures. But anyway, all the older ones used, he was banished, and he was roamed. He was banished off the face of the earth, and he roamed in like inside the earth, you know. But yeah, he was banished in to, you know, like inside the planet. It's kind of worded like he was put inside the planet. Now, there's also some scriptures that talk about a let's see here, about Cain, and some of Cain's descendants became like cave dwellers. And there's some wording in those scriptures that talk about like they cut roots and dwelled in these cavernous like regions and what have you. And the root cutting, I was wondering what the heck's that about, but it come to find out it's kind of symbolic of types of sorceries and witchcrafts and stuff. You know, like when you see the old movies of like a witch, putting pieces of root and rat tail or some kind of weird stuff in there. So yeah, they have some very odd types of witchcraft that they use. And according to Richard Shaver, the Darrow were demonized cults also. The long nose. Now, this is something very interesting I thought of the other day. I was thinking, if they were descendants of Cain, they would be pre-flood, and they would be people who would be still living that extreme long life cycle, 800-900 years. Up to 1,000 years or what have you. Methuselah was dang near 1,000 years old. So Cain would have been one of the type that lives that long. Now, after the flood, people didn't live that long anymore, and some scientists like Kent Hovind and some other creationism type scientists believe that there was a covering, that the Bible does talk about there being a firmament and a covering over the earth so that the oxygen levels were higher. The air pressure was higher, and when they simulate, like in they have like little simulators and what have you, that they crank up the oxygen levels and the air pressure, and they could grow piranhas like 4 or 5 times as large and things like that. So, if Cain was to go inside the earth, and he was escaping the sun's radiation and things like that might be shortening our life cycle because of damage in DNA and things like that over time. Some believe that that's the truth. Now, ironically, in the stories that Richard Shaver told about the Darrow. Here, I'm going to set this down. Pardon me. The stories that Richard Shaver told about the Darrow. He said that the Darrow went inside the earth after the cataclysm of... He said there was a solar flare or something. But, the Darrow, if they're demonically inspired type of human, descendants of Cain, then they probably be liars too. But anyway, in the Shaver mystery, the first paper that Richard Shaver wrote is not the Shaver mystery. That was after Ray Palmer got a hold of it, and he made it into a story so it could be sellable in the magazines that he was editor for. But Richard Shaver said that the Darrow went inside the earth to escape the detrimental rays of the sun because it was shortening the lifespan. And the Atlans, which I believe were probably the angelic creatures, that's why I think maybe the Darrow are descendants of Cain, and they worshipped these fallen angels eventually. But the Atlans, I believe, were the fallen angels, because on the planet at the time, according to Richard Shaver, which we know that's not true, so I'm not saying that's true, but I'm trying to see if there's some kind of something we can compare that to in the Bible. So these are theories, so nobody say that I'm saying this is the exact truth. This is a theory I have. I think that the Atlans were fallen angels. The Darrow, I think, are either hybrid or like the sons of God, like Genesis 6 stuff, where the sons of God came unto the daughters of men, or they're actually descendants of Cain. Maybe some of them hybrids, I don't know. But if they're descendants of Cain, they would have that long life cycle if they were inside the earth and escaping the effects of what losing the firmament had, of the covering that was over the earth. So if they were to live 800 years and they were escaping, the degradation from the sun and what have you, messing with our DNA over time, let's say they lived almost 1,000 years. I looked up the other day what parts of the body never quit growing. Never quit growing. When I looked that up, there's two parts of the body that never stop growing, and that is the ears and the nose. They never stop growing. They keep growing your whole life. If you were to live 1,000 years, how long could your nose actually get? Very interesting. Did people pre-flood actually have long pendulous noses? Maybe. If your nose never quits growing, is that possible? That's intriguing, because some of the other pictures of the Darrow that I've seen other people draw, they draw the really big ears and the long nose. The Ganesh, the Hindu, Indian god, is pictured as an elephant because it had really big ears and a long trunk-like nose. Did maybe they encounter every once in a while these Cain's descendants coming out of the earth that live this long, and they have when they're old? Because in my story, in Hollow Earth, My Encounter with Darrow, when I told my story, I said there's only one thing that I couldn't get right on the drawings that I did. And all the drawings I've ever done, after that even, is I could never get the age thing right. I'm not that good with drawing people. So I would draw it, and and I could make it look like a humanoid, with the nose and everything, but I could never make it look like an old person. And I said in that video, when I made that first video, that I couldn't get that right. That the thing looked like it was older, like maybe 60, 70 years old. It looked old, but not like decrepit old. Not like it was, like crippled old man or something. So that always kind of stuck out to me too, because I was thinking, if this was like a demonic being or something, why would it be old? Why would it sure went to a lot of extremes to try and make itself look a certain way that just didn't make sense to me. And I knew it was a solid creature. It wasn't a disembodied spirit, so it's not technically a demon. It could have been a fallen angel that can transform themselves, because that word transform, be not. Basically, the scripture says that you're not. Don't be amazed, but Satan himself can transform himself into an angel of light, and also his ministers into ministers of righteousness. And the word transform in the Greek actually means change actual physical form. So stuff like werewolves and things like that, you might run across some angelic being that could transform itself into a werewolf, because they can change their form, they can appear different ways. So the Darrow, the couple things I found out is the ears never quit growing, the nose never quits growing. So this nose gets longer and longer, bigger and bigger. And the other thing about the nose is the cartilage tissues and what have you, the way that they connect, the connective cartilage tissue also weakens so that it doesn't hold together, so it gets more and more floppy. The cells themselves don't bind together as well over time. So your nose would get longer and longer and floppier and floppier. And that is exactly what I saw. Is a very long nose that was very pendulous. It flung around when the thing was laughing at me. And it had this honking wah, 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 and it was like fling, fling, fling back and forth, man. And it was almost hypnotic, kind of, because looking at something in shock like that and then seeing this nose flinging back and, you know, around and around, it was very, very bizarre. It took a while for your mind to catch up with what you were looking at, kind of thing. It was just insanely crazy. And a lot of people don't believe me when I tell that story, and I don't blame them, because it is very, very strange and crazy. That's a fact, but it's very true. And I even gave a challenge in that video, and I said, look, you know, I don't really have the Jeep in the boat no more, but I said, you know, if anybody thinks I'm lying, put the money up for a lie detector test. I'll sign a contract with you that if I fail the lie detector, you can have my Jeep and my boat. No one ever took me up on it. A lot of people said you're lying, but no one would put their money where their mouth is, you know. If you had the money, you know, you could say, okay, I'll fly over there, drive over there, or whatever, and we'll sign this, and you drive back in the Jeep. Fly down and drive back in the Jeep if you think you can. But wouldn't happen, because I wouldn't flunk it. I would pass it, you know. And I was thinking about at some point in the future finding someone who do those tests, and take one for that encounter when I was 5 years old in the Darrow thing, just to prove, hey, I'm not scared to hook up this machine. I'll tell the story on a lie detector test there, and you can see that I'm truthful, you know. But anyway, I thought you all would like to know that about the Darrow, because your nose never quits growing. Over time, if it was 800, 900, 1,000 years, your nose would get very, very long and pendulous. If the physiology kept going that way. Okay, now the other thing I have found out is that cave locations, because I believe that the Darrow, they don't necessarily live inside the hollow earth so much as they live in subterranean realms that are inside the earth. Like one of the areas that are said to be a location opening to subterranean realms in the world is Mammoth Cave here in Kentucky. And one of the stories that I found, it was in the 1800s time frame. A lady in Kentucky claimed that she was abducted by the Darrow and taken through Mammoth Cave and into a subterranean city that the Darrow had. Okay, one of the things that is omitted from the Freedom of Information Act is cave locations. You cannot get information about caves. You're not legally allowed to explore any cave, even if it's on your own property, without a permit of some kind. I know that Mammoth Cave now has federal type agents that watch over that area, and people like Kurt Stokes go down there and get videos. They get pulled over when they're taking videos, and they ask him. They've confiscated the SD card from him a few times when he was down there filming, and he's kind of scared to talk about it, but you know, we mentioned it in a video when I interviewed him on the 411 State Park whatever video. So that's interesting to me. What are they? I think they may be watching that area because things may come out of that area, and they want to keep tabs on what might come up out of, you know, through that cave system, because there's lots of different openings hidden out throughout the hills. And one of the things that the Darrow do, according to Richard Shaver, is they have hidden entrances that they hide with even technology, like they can cloak it somehow, make it look like a regular hillside right there, but there's actually an entry, and he allegedly spent several years underground with the Darrow, or he said the Darrow. He said there were two groups. I don't know if it may be if Cain, had a family or something, and they multiplied over time. There might be a couple factions or what have you, and one of them was worse than the other. That's the scenario that Richard Shaver gave anyway. The Mike Brody story, where he got abducted and taken underground, he doesn't know because he doesn't remember, but he somehow found himself back on roaming around in New York. So there might be some groups that didn't want to, they wanted to, shouldn't keep this guy down here and get him out of here. I don't know. It's all theory, that's for sure. Well, I've been searching for other people that's had these encounters. I've come across some people that's had encounters with the Darrow also, but they're really scared to talk about it. Had one guy, I'll just give you a few of the cases. One guy here not too terribly long ago, a month ago or so, he claims that he, after he watched my story, it triggered him to remember what he thought was dreams. He thought he was having dreams about these Darrow in his room and things like that, kind of sounding a lot like abduction scenarios. He says, but now he thinks maybe it wasn't dreams. I've had another guy's like, dude, I really want to talk to you. I had something very similar happen to me, and for some reason I can't get some of these people to talk. There's one guy who claimed that he was doing astral projection. He came out of his body. He said he went down into the earth, and there was a bullet train type thing. See, Richard Shaver talked about these massive complexes, and they're connected by tunnels, and there's different vehicular kind of things and mechanical vehicles that travel very fast through these tunnels that he called like a roulette. I think he called one of them, but this guy said he come onto like his bullet train, and it was like going really, really fast, he said. And he pops into this train, and there was Darrow in it, and they had a prisoner. See, Richard Shaver talked about these people being abducted too, and I felt like they were trying to abduct me, and I maybe would have ended up on some train somewhere, going through tunnels somewhere. And I'll tell you another story here in a minute. But anyway, he said that he popped into this train, and he was astral projected, so they couldn't see him. But he said he was in there like checking this out for a little bit, thinking, wow, this is crazy. And then all of a sudden, the Darrow, he said, noticed he was there, and it started like looking around, like it was like trying to check out, hey, there's someone here on this train, and it freaked him out, so he got out of there. And but he said that the Darrow, there was someone driving this thing, and there's I don't know how many he said was on there, but he said that there was hostages, like people that were looked like they were prisoners that had been captured. So to me, that was interesting. Now, there's been other people contact me. There was one guy who said he was abducted. He said he ran across a sinkhole, and he went down into the sinkhole. First of all, he went back and got a friend and told him, hey, there's a sinkhole and there's a cave down in there. And so him and his friend, took backpacks with them, flashlights, and they was going to go check this stuff out. And this is an alleged story. I couldn't vet the story, so I never did make a video out of it. But he said that he went down in this sinkhole, and went in, and he could see a light way back there in the back of this cave. And he went to check it out, and he said there was an inscription on this door. It was a door, And there was some weird inscription. He even made a little drawing of the inscription, which, by the way, I put something really similar to what he drew on the side of that chair with the Darrow sitting in the chair on Hollow Earth, My Encounter with Darrow. There's a little inscription on the chair. That was his drawing, basically a representation of what he drew, what he saw. Fairly close anyway. Well, he said he went through this door, and there was like a UFO type looking craft in there, and ended up he got captured, he said, by the Darrow. I didn't know whether it was true or not, but I'm just telling you what he said anyway. Him and his friend were captured. They were put on one of these roulette things, these craft, and he said that the thing had one of those wand-like things and was holding it like a weapon to him. And him and the friend took through these tunnels for a good while. It was, like a couple of hours or hour or something. He was in this tunnel for a while, going very fast, he said. And then they got to where they were going, and it was kind of like a city, They took his friend off, and he didn't know what to do. He didn't feel like he needed to just cooperate here. He was like, nah, So he said that he attacked that Darrow and got that thing away from the handheld thing away from the Darrow, and he held it to the Darrow and said, take me back to where or I'm going to use this. He said that I didn't know how to use it. He didn't know really how to, but he said the Darrow didn't know that he didn't know how, or maybe didn't want to take the chance or something, I don't know. But he said the Darrow took him back, and he said, what about my friend? He was asking before he said, no, we've already killed your friend, is what he told him. That's what he said. So he gets taken all the way back to where they started, and he gets out, and he has the device with him. He gets out, and he gets to that door, and and then he makes a run for it. And after he comes up out of the sinkhole, he fell coming up out of that area, and he drops the device, but he didn't want to stop and try to recover it. He felt like they would be on his tail, or at least that one would. And he bolted for the house, and then he ends up contacting me. I didn't want to say, dude, man, oh no, man, you lying or whatever. Because I was thinking, well, if this is true, then they may abduct him, so I didn't know what to do when I said, dude, you need to pray. I'll tell you that. And if you're telling the truth, I wouldn't stay in that house. I would be getting up out of that house so they wouldn't know where I am, and I would be praying, At the time I was thinking, they're demonic, fallen angels, or so if you pray, they can't touch you. Certainly God's protection could, protect you, no matter what they are, So, anyway, I was asking about his friend. Well, the next day, he contacted me, and he said they brought his friend back, and they said they were peaceful, and I was thinking, well, is that possible? Would they maybe bring his friend back, fearing that this guy would report this and it would get out, and then there would be, U.S. agents and stuff, Secret Service, Men in Black type things, and they would go in after these things. Richard Shaver said they go great lengths to hide their existence and their locations and entrances and things like that, and the fact that they exist. And Richard Shaver also said that they have had FBI people look into this Darrow stuff before, and the FBI people come up missing. And he's told this on a radio interview with Long John Nebo, and you can actually listen to that interview. You can Google it. You can Google Darrow, Hollow Earth, shaver mystery, and you'll see it's a radio show. Long John Nebel interview, and Richard Shaver's in that interview along with Ray Palmer, and he talks about these FBI agents and them coming up missing after looking into this. And then he's like, that's about all I'm going to say about that. And there's some very interesting stuff that's brought up in that interview, even about the power that's used, that powers the devices and stuff they have. Some type of energy called Allegra or something like that. And it's similar to like the electrical current that's in the body. That's what he says. So anyway, I thought that was very interesting stuff. I thought about I have tried to get a hold of the guy that had the abduction story a few times, and I can't ever get a hold of him anymore. So hopefully, maybe he just made it up, and he didn't want to pursue making that anymore. I don't know. That's what he said. Hopefully he didn't get abducted. They didn't come back and get him and his friend, and now they're slaves underground. Because Richard Shaver said that there's more slaves underground than there are Darrow. That they basically have lots of human beings that they abduct every year. Kind of makes you wonder about the 411 stuff. People coming up missing. What? I have that one video on the Steve Brody case. I don't know how he ended up getting out of there, and he doesn't either. But he did, and he came to a few times. But they would pop up with some kind of wand-like device pointed at him, and see, there was not. Richard Shaver really didn't talk about these devices, so that's why I believe the Steve Brody story. He said that every time they put something on his head, and they said it had these plate-like things. It was like over the temple area, and every time he would come to, one of those Darrow would come up and point it at him, and he would lose consciousness again. But one of the times he kind of came to, and there was some lady sitting next to him that he heard her say that you are in the Darrow caverns. So that's how he knew the name Darrow. And then later on, he discovered a magazine with a drawing of one of the Darrow, and it was the Shaver mystery story. And he freaked out when he saw that. He's like, man, someone else is talking about this. That's exactly how I came across that, and that's why I call him Darrow. Because Darrow, they probably are descendants of Cain or Nephilim. That's my guess, but it's theory. Interesting about the cave stuff, though. Why are caves so secretive when it comes to the government? Is it because they don't want to expend people to go find you when you get lost in them or something, or because it's dangerous? But I used to go caving when I was a kid down in when I was a teenager in Richmond, off of this Lancaster Road. There was a field you could go into, and there was a cave system that you could wander into and go explore. Well, one day we went back, and it had a metal like a jail. It was blocked off very, very well with a like a steel gate. It was off limits. You couldn't go no more into it, and so I know that the government did at some point make laws about caves, and that was very suspicious to me, just because of what little bit I do know about it. Anyway, thought you all might like that. Hope you do. If anyone out there has an encounter with one of these things, or something even similar, or any good story, please contact me at brentonson@gmail.com, or comment on this video and say, hey, I got a good story. I would add me to circles, Google Plus circles. I would do the interview on Google Hangouts, or phone if you don't have a webcam or something. But my email is brentonson@gmail.com. If you want to contribute to this channel to help me make videos, brentonson@gmail.com is also on my PayPal, or you can go to Facebook Mysteries to search. There's a donate button on that. And then, of course, the last of my favorite ways to get, if someone wants to donate, and I don't get very many at all, so I don't think that I do. I don't. So I go 3-4 months sometimes without any. But there's a little contribute button that YouTube puts on YouTube content creators channels for them. Yeah, you have to enable it, and I did. So you can go there and you can contribute that way. So anyway, hope y'all enjoy that, man. I've been wanting to kind of bring the topic back up, and actually I'm working on getting interviews with some of these people that said they've encountered them, because I really don't know some of the stories and I believe that they did encounter them. They're kind of reluctant to talk about it, and I was too. Whenever I made the video, I was like, I don't know about this, because I shared the Darrow story I think first, and then I shared the one when I was 5. But the reason I shared the Darrow one is because I didn't know what that phenomenon was. I've been researching it for a while now, and I was hoping someone would say, hey dude, I had, and come forward, and not, since I came forward, I thought maybe it would help other people say, hey, I'll tell my story. And that very well may happen. We'll see. And it already has, really, but I even had that one case where the people were in the camper, and I even put that in a video, and they saw Darrow two Darrows, I think it was, outside the camper, and they heard that laughing, that honking laughing, that stood out to them in my story, and all of a sudden they were in the camper, and then they don't really remember anything, so that's not good when you don't remember. I wonder what happened, because I've had that happen on that first thing that happened to me, is I don't remember what happened afterwards, which is kind of a weird feeling because you wonder what happened. But subscribe, like, share, and God bless you, and I'll see you on the next video.